Howdy, my name is Billy Moran. I'm Director of Marketing here at Uplogix, and thank you for coming to our webinar. So we're going to start off with a little bit of a historical recap.
Sony Pictures Entertainment is reeling from what may be the biggest and most devastating computer hacking in Hollywood's history.
It's the hack heard and seen around the world. Over 100 terabytes of data stolen from Sony Pictures.
Today, the U.S. government pointed the finger of blame directly at North Korea for the devastating cyber attack against Sony Pictures.
They caused a lot of damage.
A devastating hack like the one on Sony Pictures can penetrate even the best cyber defense. You have all these experts here. Could you have protected against an attack like this? Could anybody protect against it? Not 100%, he says. It's like catching a cold or getting the flu, or in Sony's case, a disease.
So the Sony hack has been a while back, but it's a good example of when everything goes wrong. In their case, hackers were in their network for months. They were mapping the network, downloading a lot of data, which they then released publicly. For Sony, it was bad news because they released unreleased movies, which was their source of revenue. But then also it captured the public's attention because they released personal emails between executives and talking behind the back of movie stars, and it was very scandalous. So in addition, it had a big impact. It took them a long time to recover. They were cutting paper checks because they couldn't get to their payroll system. They took a bunch of Blackberries out of mothballs and distributed them as a way to exchange email. It was just not where they wanted to be. And then finally, blame was on North Korea, which made it even an international scandal and had a lot of political ramifications. Not what you want. With what we're hearing today from our customers, you can put it into the context of the NIST cybersecurity framework. There are a lot of tools out there for identification and protection and detection, and then fewer for kind of after the hack. What are you doing to respond to things and eventually try to recover? And oftentimes, recovery is a very manual process, especially if you're having network problems. It might involve people going out into the field with laptops to recover all your devices. So, and across the board, what's always there is it's never exactly what you're planning for. So flexibility in your tools is critical. With that, I'm going to turn it over to James Dollar. He's CTO and founder here at Uplogix, and he's going to get a little bit more technical.
Let's look at this in an operations sense from the middle of the outage. First, you have the attack that's showing some breach in your network. You might have some tool at your NOC monitoring that detects the breach. There might be an automated response. In either case, maybe you'd have some technician look at that outage situation and try to determine if there's a change you might want to make. Often, you just put the system in lockdown mode by just pushing a safe mode configuration to your remote sites. It would then generally take down maybe very broad services in order to make to contain the breach as quickly as possible, which often takes down your ability not only to manage it, but in that completely locked down state really gives you no way to bring it out of that without sending a guy in a truck to either return it to its known good state or to some intermediate state in the middle of the outage. Real world examples of that solution in the past few years, a major U.S. auto manufacturer had turned off SNMP when they had a problem when SNMP was being exploited. And there was really no way to turn it back on but to go to every site in a change window and manually turn it back on again. They had no protocols enabled and had basically locked themselves out of that management ability. We hear from a number of our investment banking and financial services company customers that they really have no automated way to react to situations like this, and that they're having to react in the moment when they see the exploit, and they take broad steps, and that their expectation is it would be weeks to bring a system back online after it's been taken down for the middle of the outage. So first, that ability to do rapid response is really critical. Uplogix gives you those tools to not only monitor and even react when there's a problem, but be able to automatically or manually push safe mode configurations or lockdown configurations from a central point on the network that take place really in no time at all. And then because those actions that you take are your best guess today, you're going to have to do something to that, and so you might have to do tweaking or make other changes. And Uplogix gives you that platform to do that broadly. Again, safe mode is just a way of looking at a lockdown configuration that's not your business as usual configuration, but is what you need to lock systems down. And then Uplogix gives you the ability that even if you've locked down all WAN-based connectivity, Uplogix LTE backup has that ability to do WAN traffic failover or carrying critical traffic over that LTE connection, even when your broadband connection that you may have turned down for the exploit is unavailable. So Uplogix does this by having a platform that has that local connectivity to each one of those devices. Console cable and Ethernet connected to each one of them, so they're all independently managed. Things like power control, things like console-based access, IP-based access to each one of those devices. And then it uses that system to poll by default every 30 seconds to determine state and to react to a problem. Then it has those out-of-band options using V92 dial-up, cellular, satellite, and carrier Ethernet. Again, as it polls every few seconds to be able to collect information about that site, it also has that ability to use that same conduit to pull configurations and push some of those safe mode configurations. Then Uplogix has the control center, which is that centralized node that's able to, it's the GUI, it's able to organize communicating to many branch offices at the same time, giving you a single button that could lock systems down when there's a problem. When one of those components fails, then Uplogix has that secondary network connection over out of band that'll restore connectivity between your NOC and that branch office. Backfilling tools like SolarWinds, reconnecting your security protocols like TACACS and ICE, Splunk, and two-way interaction with your NOC technicians to resolve problems. Until you get back to business as usual monitoring. The way that looks from a centralized state, imagine a network across your enterprise, a core NOC in the middle perhaps. Some attack occurs in one of the sites, maybe two, maybe a third site. You have the centralized tools, maybe you have people calling you when there's a problem, but you start looking at the problem and decide that in a very reacting state that you want to lock it down. So you'll push from a single point in the network, just the command to send to all those remote sites, put the system down in its lockdown safe mode configuration. And over the in-band network, it makes those changes, putting them all in their yellow lockdown state. That may even turn off network management protocols like SNMP and SSH. So we'll remove all those connectivities and all sites are down in their lockdown state. And then Uplogix has the ability to bring up the secondary network connections over LTE, over dial-up networking, over IP, basically just a connection back into the NOC that's the management overlay that we can again send commands back out, maybe in a change window, maybe later in that day, where you can push a predetermined safe mode plus a few new services to each site to get maybe that site back up again. Maybe you haven't still turned back on in-band network management. But then later during the green zone in your change window, then you can make a change to bring the system back to business as usual. Importantly, being able to determine whether or not the site is working or not, and might be in the middle of the night. You may not have the ability to ask a person at each one of the sites that it's working. So our SLV system, service level verification, is there to synthetically do voice calls, synthetically generate web traffic, or SYNAC handshakes, just to validate functionality. So you can use that as a validation that the change you made was enough, and if it wasn't, perhaps even push another change to that site. Maybe it's a new operating system change or a patch that fixes the exploit. And then after that's in place, the system could come back up and go back to business as usual until another exploit hits again. So just talking through these broad bullet points, putting the systems in safe mode, doing patching, validating that patches work and changes work, using that service level verification system. This ability to control the restore, maybe during a change window, maybe following time zones or business units. Uplogix gives you that distributed method of locally collecting the configurations, known good states, operating system files per device. Yet you can, from a central location, without any networking being in place, be able to restore them to their last known configurations. Or that last known configuration plus some new features.